All right, this is our IST 421 final project. I'm Jack Miller.
I'm Bryce Zirkle.
And I'm Ashwara Chanchanka.
So these are the topics that we will be going over during the presentation. The introduction start. Penn State ARL is working with the U.S. Army to help them simplify their packing business process, and the data set that will be provided to us is by Global Bikes. The U.S. Army wants to create an easier way to input information regarding packing and shipping materials, and the implemented SAP system that they are using provides a structure for inputting the information that they need, but the warehouse clerks are not familiar with the system, making it harder to use. And so we need to create a user interface to allow the warehouse clerks to more easily put in the information with a focus on ease of use and efficiency.
So the physical requirements for this UI to be effective, we need to have barcodes on all of the items that are to be packed into the handling units and the boxes that are being used for the handling units. So items, we'd need to have specific information in the system designating them as what type of material it is, just general information, and also information regarding the categorizations of how they are to be handled. Because if you have fragile material, that's going to recommend a certain type of packaging material. Hazardous material has to have its own specialty packaging, etc. And so, along with this, in order to have the items fit within the handling unit specifications, items need to have in the system, their volume and the volume of the containers that they need to be stored in, and also like their weight, so that you're not going over the weight requirement of the handling unit. And this last one is more of a ease of use for the recommended packing process. So, the boxes would need to be sorted, but not, each box by dimension is in its own place, more, small, medium, large boxes, so that, just so that if they're trying to find a specific box, it's in, a general pile.
So the prototype which we have been working on, we have used SAP Fiori. The reason why we chose Fiori is because it has a very easier UI, and it looks spacious, and it is fairly easy to use as well. The following shows a homepage in which we have shown a small amount of functions for the entire process. Functions which are already there in the previous UI, but they are shown here in a clear way. We have the create shipment function, the inventory function, which shows us where the packing materials are, and the list of packing materials are along with the details behind them, the goods receipt, and a way where you can track the shipment as well. Our business process relies on this choose function, in which you can either choose to manually enter the packing materials and choose the packing materials which you want, or you could choose the Fiori's added function, which is the recommended packing type, in which the system will recommend and suggest a few packing materials which will go with the deliveries and the materials inside your deliveries.
So this next page is once you've selected whether you're putting them in manually or you're taking the recommended the packaging boxes for it. Either way, you need to have the items scanned and have the handling unit box scanned. This is the most crucial part of it, as you're inputting. This is a step where all of the things that are going into the handling unit are scanned and going into the system, so that you have that information codified from the actual physical packing process into the system. So you'd scan each individual item, and it would pop up in the current item list, and you'd be able to see, just generally what has been scanned previously, and the recommended packaging material. And for stuff that the packaging material isn't recommended, where it's actually required, we would have some type of pop-up box, and that's something that we didn't want to do with the UI, because you actually have to essentially build the entire system to show that kind of thing and have items in there in the database and everything. So it was, yeah, it was not something that we were able to display here in the presentation so much. But then once you have all the items you want, and should you make a mistake, there is an option to delete an item. But once you have all the items you want, you complete the handling unit and you're able to go on to the next step.
The next step and the next option is the recommended packaging type. So the system will have some kind of algorithm or will have some kind of intelligence which will help decide what packing type goes with which material. And the material, there will be a material list in the master data of SAP, and as well as the master data for the packaging type as well. This master data will have the weight of each packaging type, the maximum weight each packaging type can hold. For example, an example for a packaging type would be a box. So how much materials can go in that box, the minimum weight limit and the maximum weight limit, and the space provided by each packaging type as well. So this is the recommended packaging type which can help the people using the software understand the packaging type and the packaging process better.
So some challenges that we faced over the course of this project was, first of all, understanding the problem. There were a lot of factors that went into finding a solution for the project. And one of the most important things that we had to consider is how the business process works for the U.S. Army currently with the system that they have now. And given the data that ARL provided us, we need to find a way to incorporate that into the process that the U.S. Army was using. The next challenge we faced after we understood the problem was developing a realistic solution. Given the time constraint that we have with the project, we wanted to find a solution that was within an appropriate scope for the U.S. Army. And once we designed and developed a solution to this problem, we had to work with Mendix to implement our design. And this was a challenge because Mendix, without using Mendix Pro, we were limited in functionality options such as buttons and widgets. But once we were able to get through that, we were pretty satisfied with the solution that we came up with and the design of the interface that we were implementing.
So if this project were to be accepted and moved into a capstone project type thing, some of the things that we'd want to improve, we'd want to bolt down the UI, make sure that it looks as good as it can and that it follows the business processes that are required to the T, so that you try to streamline the process better. And in doing that, we'd be kind of refining the BPMN, the understanding of the process that we currently have, and ensuring that we're covering all of our bases on all parts of the process. So there's going to be exception types to where things aren't always exactly the process doesn't go exactly to plan, or there's a caveat where something needs to be packed a certain way, and we want to have that availability open, just for for if this were to be more project type, less of a conceptual type project and more of a realistic type project. Thank you for listening to the presentation. We appreciate consideration and the ability to conceptualize what this would look like in a business process.